Irish guy, old stories hit high, tells of struggle and strife. Keep your head in the fight. Broken bones in the street, ain't no place for the weak. From the land of the brave, where the words cut deep. Coming next on the air now, feel the despair. Generation X, shout out, shouting somewhere. Rising up from the dark with a fire and spark. Rage and passion combined to leave a lasting mark. Coming next, shouting loud, voices from the crowd. Through the mist of...
Welcome to Common X Podcast. This is episode 29. We are your co-hosts, Ian Primer and Jared Mazak. How the hell are you doing today, Jared?
I'm great. How are you?
Who did you piss off, my man?
I don't know. Elon Musk? Trump?
Well, I
Somebody?
received a letter in the mail. Benny and the boys, Igniting Sparks, sent me a letter, my friend.
Oh,
And it says, to whom it may concern Common X, you are hereby notified that between the hours of 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. local time, you may not use the following words of profanity. These are piss, mother, and tits. Your cooperation is greatly appreciated in this matter pursuant to 1818 U.S. Code 1464. This includes a fine up to $506,000. Cordially, your FCC field agent, Marcus F. Hildebrandt. What'd we do?
Oh, your fault.
It's my fault.
Yep.
I didn't even
You're
know
the
we were
potty mouth,
FCC
not me.
regulated. We're on Spotify. Is this possible? What is happening in America right now? Unreal. All right, onward to episode 29. I think that's a warning shot, so everybody please avoid those 7 words if you can. Today we have a special guest, Debra Josephson. She's from the Experience Explorer podcast. How are you doing today, Debra?
Hey guys, it is a great pleasure to be here with some common sense and commonalities about our journey on podcasting as well as in life. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks so much.
Well, we're excited to have you. So you're a fellow Gen Xer. You're in the Philippines, correct?
Currently.
All right. Is it between the hours of 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. where you're at?
It is approaching 10 a.m.
Okay,
here.
so we're going to have to still refrain from the dirty 7. Okay. Well, how are you doing today?
Well, I would say that I am doing the best I can. To be honest, my mother just suddenly passed away, and so like it's been a bit of shock because there really wasn't there wasn't really anything that would have led to this sudden death. I mean, she had an illness which was under control, but due to complications with pneumonia, that just brought her system to a very vulnerable place. So anyway, and I'm not in the US to be part of the services or participating in any of the final, things. So it's, it is what it is. My mother, I'll just say this, my mother said, you don't have to come back. I won't know that you're not here, so, so these are moments where my, lifestyle gets a little challenging.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry to hear about the tragic loss of your mother there, Deborah.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about that.
Yeah, so I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm just saying that it's a real pleasure to kind of be with you guys. As I mentioned, when I listen to your podcast, it brings a certain light and validity to my life that I really need to feel connected to. And when I, listen to you guys being authentic and truthful, or even in the search of truth, it really helps me feel connected to others, especially when I'm not near so many of my Westerner friends at this point.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for the kind words, Deborah. We're excited to have you here.
Yeah, and we're all connected in a way anyway. So
Yeah. But the thing is, that's the thing about podcasting is this technology can bring people together. And I believe that there's certain technology or platforms that don't do that. But I believe we are doing a good service by trying to solve problems and trying to put the word out and being voices to be part of the change, maybe a little bit. Yeah.
yeah, move it in the right direction.
Yeah, and this is different. This is definitely different for us Gen Xers. I mean, kind of how we started from our teenage years to where we're at now. Just sitting on our asses on the couch and kind of letting the leaders of our time, our parents or supervisors or teachers or kind of guide us and lead us through the way. And I don't know about you guys, but I always kind of felt like, okay, everybody's already got this. So like, what does the world need from me, right? It's if there's a problem, somebody else is going to fix it or somebody's going to take care of it. And I'll just kind of go with the flow. That seems to be kind of like the Gen X spirit for me, at least. And then we seem to reach this age, right? We seem to reach this time in our lives where, oh shit, it's time for me to make a decision. It's time for me to take action. It's time for me to do something, or like I'm fucked, do you guys feel that way?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think you just said Trump is Gen X's fault. We
Well, he
were
was the
sleeping at
guy
the
that
wheel,
was,
man.
How could that
yeah.
possibly be?
Too many people didn't vote is the problem.
And was like I did learn that it's about 36% or something of the country didn't vote. Do they know the demographic of that 36% of if it's boomers, millennials, Gen Xers, Gen Z?
Well, I'm sure there's something out there about it. I'm sure somebody's done a study, or
Yeah.
an AI has done it for us.
Yeah. This is where AI has been really helpful, as well as
Right.
making my show notes even better. Yes.
All right.
But the thing is I think when it comes to blaming us for really anything, I don't really see the evidence to support that, especially when we are not the leaders, right? We are not the ones that created like you talked about climate, right? Or pollution, environment. I mean, we weren't the ones that created all this plastic pollution. This is, all boomer, we are part of the consequences of the boomer time of manufacturing and development of how the structure of business is in America. So they are to take a good portion of that initial accountability, in my opinion. But it is up to the rest of us to do something about it, right? We can't wait for others to take care of it. But it is a very difficult perspective to get across to people that we can't just keep pointing fingers at, they did this and they're this or that, because, here's a philosophy, one finger pointing over, three pointing back right at you. It's like we have to, like, I think the Gen X thing is we got to take accountability for things. We are living in this world. So regardless of who started it, are we continuing with it? Are we just sitting back being like, well, this is the way it is, and I don't have any choices, or I can't do anything? Or are we going to be like, well, let's start doing something to make a movement towards a better way? And I think that's a very much at least for me, is this accountability that has been lost. Like it's just a lot of people talking just out of their
Arse.
orifices. Yeah.
Yeah.
At this
Yeah.
point, they just want to hear. They just want to hear their voice on a platform. That's the problem and frustration for me. Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of echo chambers out there.
That's just
So
wild for me. Yeah, it's hard to believe too that a guy like me would be to blame, and all I was doing was sitting in the back bedroom filling up a tube sock to the J.C. Penney catalog. Like, what the fuck?
yeah,
So,
but
like,
I agree though.
Oh my God, you're hilarious. Holy shit.
I,
why is it my fault? What the hell did I do? I
yeah,
didn't even want to grow up. What the fuck?
Yeah.
nothing. That's why
You were.
I agree with you, Deborah,
Yeah. Yeah.
about that because I think the way we were raised was really hands off. They didn't really teach us much about government or anything like that. At least not where I came up. So I think we just sat back and said, "All right, we're just gonna watch MTV." Do this whole new what is it called? This internet thingamabobber.
Yeah.
See what these bulletin boards are about. Right?
And
Yeah.
Axl Rose,
So,
if you're out there, I knew you kind of fell off, buddy, but you're the next president, dude. You're up.
oh
You're
God,
up.
God save us.
Do you
Yeah.
know that
Drop the mic on that.
talking about Axl Rose and Guns N' Roses, I actually met them in the city when I was a teenager. A group of my friends, we went to a place called Serendipity. You might have heard of the movie Serendipity with John Cusack, right? So
Yeah,
it was located. They were there actually, just in the main area eating, and we went up and said hello to them,
that's
and we did
cool.
get autographs, but I lost it. And I had seen Slash on a plane before, but
Mm.
yeah.
Like, totally wasted, totally not wasted. Like, what are we talking here? Like mid 90s, early 90s?
No, I'm talking about 80s when I was
Oh
Oh,
wow.
like 15,
so
14.
totally wasted. Okay. Wow. Dude,
I
that's
was
awesome,
totally
man.
I was totally high on frozen hot chocolate.
Mm, I haven't tried that one yet, but it sounds delicious.
Hmm.
Sounds good.
So where are you guys exactly?
Washington
We're
State.
Uh,
Yeah, we're located in the Pacific Northwest, kind of that whole little triangle there, that Washington, Idaho, Oregon, Pacific Northwest. Very beautiful up here.
Uh,
Our
Unfortunately,
taxes is,
trying to become California Junior. So
yeah. So we live in the land of the highest gas taxes ever in the United States, and they can't fill a pothole.
mm.
It's pretty incredible. Yeah.
I have been and lived in the Pacific Northwest. I lived in Portland for a little bit, and I also went to U of Oregon in Eugene
mm,
for my graduate degree in journalism about 10 years
Wow.
ago. Yeah, so
Oregon Ducks. All right.
yeah, a duck. Yeah.
yeah,
So it is stunning, the nature and the, like, for me, the eccentricity of that area. I feel like myself with all those weirdos and artists and game changers that are out there. I just, it was really great. It's very relaxed. Like, I had this experience, and for me, this is not a Gen X thing, where I would ask people about going out or making plans or doing things, and it was always like, maybe, or yeah, maybe, but nothing ever came together. I was like, does anyone have a clear point of view of anything? I feel like it's so like, we'll see how things go. Is that how it is really over there?
not anymore.
No.
Yeah, and I think Portland's kind of different.
Portland's gone downhill.
It's kind of like its own separate thing. I mean, I've got an uncle who's a blind man, right? And he's an incredible drummer. He's an incredible musician. I learned how to play the drums, from him. And you think about, how do I get through life, as a blind man? Well, this guy's done it. I mean, he plays in these bands and he travels to different bars and you go and you hear whatever band he's playing with for the night. And I'm telling you, that's the best damn drummer I ever heard. You know, he's a blind guy. And I think, where else can a guy do that? Portland's probably about it, you know, maybe Seattle or something like that. So like, I'm thankful for that. I don't know about the inner city politics or city life that much. I mean, Jared and I live in, you know, we have beautiful horse property and stuff. I mean, we're broke as fuck, but we live out in the country or whatever, and everybody's supposed to leave us alone. And for the most part, they do. So I can't imagine being a man who's blind and traveling with a drum set and getting from gig to gig and doing all that. But I'm thankful that he's been able to do that throughout his life. That's pretty incredible to me. Yeah.
Yeah, that is incredible. I mean, I have watched the, if you think of, Ray Charles, I mean, that was from a totally different time. They didn't have the technology to utilize to increase the conveniences and needs for a person that can't see. So, that's where, things can help people, but still you need to trust people to deal with and navigate, like money, for example, to make sure people are not taking advantage of someone who can't see. So you have to be very trusting to deal with that kind of stuff. I'm not.
Definitely. No.
Right.
No.
Hire security guards for you.
I find it very difficult to, like, even though I have like this introspective, because I'm an introvert, I'm an INFJ, and I really can feel and read people, I think, fairly well. But then I have this weakness where, like, there are some people that are master manipulators or good talkers, and I might be like, oh yeah, and I misread the whole thing, and then yeah.
Yeah.
There are some silver-tongued devils out there.
Yeah. I think we've all been screwed over a few times, that's for sure. And that's kind of like something that Gen X is susceptible to, right? I mean, we kind of have like this laid back nature about us. I think maybe we picked up the pace as we get older. I mean, we're talking between 64 and 80. So like, as you get older, you want things, you need to own a home, or you need to provide for children or something like that. And I think our generation's good at stepping up as far as that goes. But I almost feel like, the boomers like had to do it, right? Because Jared and I covered this in like our very first episode. I think it was called Gen X versus Boomers, where we talked about foxhole leadership. So like you're growing into a time where you're forced and you're sent to war, right? So you gotta dig that foxhole, and hey, you're in charge, and you got, if you screw up, like, you're responsible for all these lives. Everyone in this foxhole is now dead because you didn't make a decision or weren't tough or whatever. So those that generation is tough. That is a tough generation right there. Like, you don't mess with them, man, because they had to throw hands for real, like you see them on the street and you screw them over, man, you got your ass kicked, and we kind of were like raised by that coming into this Gen X thing, and it's like, well, you don't just like step up to that. I mean, you can't just be born into a world and step up to that. And then somehow I feel like the millennials kind of slid in like naturally smarter than us. I don't know if it was because they were technologically advanced, like born with the cell phone in their pocket or whatever you call it, but like, we're just kind of right in the middle there, right? These latchkey kids that, our mothers had to enter the workforce because divorce was a thing and life was just different. What's your perspective on that, Deborah?
Are you talking about that middle being caught in the
that sort of middle
between?
ground, like where we're at in Gen X. So like the boomers were tough as hell because they had to.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't fight, you're nothing, right? And then we come in and we're like, oh, don't piss off dad. I mean, that dude's like, God knows what he had to do in Vietnam. And then you've got our kids now growing up, and they're like, shut the hell up. Like, don't tell me what to do. Like, I'm smarter than you.
Right.
I'll hack your computer, or I'll freaking do so, I'll freaking lock your phone out for 2 hours. And they can do that shit, by the way. Like, they're just smart. Like, so like, how did we get caught between those two generations, do you think, in this way?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting. It hasn't been until like the last like couple of years or so, or maybe during the pandemic time where, I started becoming much more nostalgic, thinking about, our times growing up and, and I've taken much more action on connecting with Gen X on social media because I feel much more, again, part of a community, a commonality. And I didn't really think of us about this, middle place before the middle child syndrome until, again, you guys share it that our parents were from this generation and the next generation are more, I would say, open. I would say they're more I would say maybe articulate or open to share their perspective much more than we were because we, as you talked about, and I agree, I really thought about this, is that we were told to be seen but not heard. And my parents were certainly, I look back after thinking about it, how much we kept we were a generation of just keep our feelings, keep our thoughts to ourselves or push it under the rug, and everything that would happen in at home, basically our parents would never share with the kids what was really going on. Maybe we heard the fighting, but we don't know what really the underlying cause to everything is. When we sat around and ate dinner together, it wasn't like we were having this deep conversation, although we did eat together. Nothing was really shared. The feelings weren't out there and things like that. I think that contributed to our not being so outwardly passionate about what's going on in the world or making certain changes. I think that participates in our more quieter role in things. But I just don't believe that we are a generation that just didn't like totally give a shit. I just think that we had it really good, and that perhaps we didn't have a war really to fight for, and we didn't have such struggles with many things, like we didn't know about the environmental issues, although that really did start in the 70s. The science was already in with like Freon and other industrial pollutions going in that, the government kept that really, under a tight seal. So like we didn't grow up with all these concerns of, do we have a future? Is our
Right.
planet in crisis? We didn't have like for me, the only protests that I saw were teachers for a pay raise in
Yeah.
my
Wage
community,
increases. Yeah.
wage increases. So that's like one thing that I remember as a protest where I grew up in this little town on Long Island, New York. And so like, I think my world was very much a bubble of goodness. Unfortunately, again, when you're in a bubble, you don't really get to feel or experience or learn about what other realities of other people are. But like, back to like what you're saying about the generation after us, Generation X, right? I don't necessarily agree that they're smarter than us. Maybe they have more knowledge about, as you say, technology. Of course, if you are born into a situation where you have something from like basically your adolescence or earlier, you're going to be a master at it. But we are a generation that has learned so many other technologies that they don't. Like, do they know how to really type? Do they know how
Right.
to, do they know how to write their name in cursive? Do they really know how to, read my analog watch? There's been many skills that we have learned that they have very little experience or knowledge on. So I think their, let's say, knowledge or their experiences outweighs ours. I think it's just different.
Yeah, and
So
I think
choice for illusion, choice versus illusion.
Right.
Like, what do you think is actually better? Is more options better, or looking at the way that you grew up and the way that things are now? Like, we were kind of restricted, right? Like, you could want something, save your parents' allowance or your milk money or whatever you want to call it, and maybe get something at the mall in a month. But now having all these options and everybody has, Apple and they have Amazon, what do you think is better?
You know, this topic is like that was something that I draw to George Carlin on. He had a whole bit about the illusion of choice in America,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and I definitely think that would be a bit great for this episode.
Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right.
Because he's kind of my go-to when it comes to kind of learning things or seeing them as they are, because he really did his homework before he did these bits. Of course,
Absolutely.
he's passed away now like 10, 15 years, but all of his topics relating to this and religion and government and the parties and things about America are still very relevant and still very true, if not more so. When it comes to when he talked about choice versus illusion, he talks about that basically, when it comes to certain things like banks, right? Certain things related to our resources as far as like oil, and other big government related matters, there's only a small group of people that really control all of this. And like I remember when we were younger, banks, we had a multitude of different banks, and over time, everything has merged and changed and gone to much more of a monopoly style where we only have 2 or 3.
BlackRock,
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
there's,
one company that rules them all.
yeah.
Their slogan should
So,
be Darth Vader.
yeah. And so, like, as a child, of course, you don't look at things that way. You see what you're given. You're like, and you go to a supermarket and you see this abundance of choices, which is true. But at the same time, our choices have been regulated by a very few people or corporations. So the thing is it's an illusion to choice because we are only given really the choices that the government benefits from. And so that's where I stand on it. But however, if you're going to say from a Gen X perspective, when I was growing up, and certainly when I started living abroad and going to developing countries, I felt really blessed that we have so many choices. But if we're just looking at things from our perspective now, I really personally believe that choice, as far as in that respect of things, that it is an illusion. But regarding choice, like real choice, is for me what I have done with my life. I could have gone the easy route where I could have just followed what I was molded to be. I was molded to be a child that gets educated, because part of my culture, everyone goes to university pretty much. Like that's what it was for me growing up, and like that was not a choice really for me. And then you get married, you have your career, you have the family, but it's when you are molded into a certain way of doing things, it's kind of like really hard to break out and change your choice, because it's a training, a mental training to help you get ready for the real world in the perspective of maybe your government or your parents. But for me, in a nutshell, I realize I'm just like, there has to be more to life than what has been given to me. And I knew from an early age, in fact, one of my high school friends who chimed in on my Facebook regarding my mother's passing, she reminded me that she had a conversation with me about when we talked about what we're doing later on in our life. She said that I told her I'm going to go far, far away and live as an explorer and an artist. And it takes an exorbitant amount of mental energy, if not, a full holistic experience to be able to change everything that and go into something unknown and go to a path that hopefully leads to the choices you want for yourself. And I find that to be about choice. What about you guys? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think not a lot of people are awake yet, right? Like, I think you're waking up. I am. Ian is. A lot of people are just still stuck in this dream, right? Because, like you said, both of you said that made the comment, sit there, be seen, don't be heard, right? And I think when you're raised that way, you kind of tend to be that way as an adult. So I think Generation X, especially, they just went into corporate jobs, did their 9 to 5, like you said, did the routine. And I think a lot of people were still stuck in that. But what's interesting to me is I think a lot of people are now starting to wake up. Right. I think there's a spiritual shift, conscious shift in the entire world, honestly. But I think more people are starting to wake up to the realization that, hey, we're all human beings living on the same planet. Maybe we should act like it. Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of why I wanted to start this platform. And like you said, before we got on camera, it's good to get those ideas out to people so they can hear it, and maybe, just maybe, we'll reach a few, right? Wake them up, get them back on their journey of where they need to go.
But do you think
Yeah.
we have real choices though? Or
I
do
do,
you
yeah,
think, oh, you do? Okay.
definitely.
I,
We have a choice of how we react to everything,
Mm.
right? And what we choose to do with that. Like, look at all the people that protested this weekend. I think they said it's almost, 6 million people. That's pretty amazing. Like, when Gen X, because I think that's mostly driven by Gen X, if you look at most of the people there, um, are like, oh, we sat by and coasted too long. Oh shit, the ship's sinking. We better do something. So I think a lot of Gen Xers are starting to wake up to that fact and like, all right, we need to take over because this is just a flaming dumpster fire floating down a flooded river. So,
as
and
for
we have the
me,
choice to make, to
Ian,
choose how we react.
do you think we live, like in America especially, do you think that we have true choices or not?
absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm gonna rival you guys on that. And the reason I say that is I've been manipulated my entire life, right? So from the time that I can recall my earliest memory of being like 5 years old in the back of a Volkswagen Rabbit, being transported to daycare or school, I saw that Marlboro Man billboard sign. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That Marlboro Man
Hmm.
billboard sign was up there, and that cowboy looked cool. That looked like what I needed to do. So I spent 20 years after I became an adult trying to quit fucking smoking. So I've been manipulated my entire life. If you and
Yeah.
I were to talk about Budweiser right now, my phone is on. It's going to hear me. It's going to tell me what to shop and purchase for in the next couple days. It doesn't matter. The algorithm is manipulating me. It has been since the beginning, whether it's big advertising corporations in the beginning from my youth, or that Mattel commercial, or the Micro Machine Man talking super fast, telling me to tell my mom I want that toy or I want that fucking cereal, man. I've been manipulated my entire life. I am living in a fucking machine, and that is never going to fucking change. And I don't have a choice over anything. The one choice that I do have is to have this platform and to be sitting here with you guys and have this super amazing Common X podcast. But I have never had a fucking choice. I won't today, I didn't yesterday, and I won't tomorrow. And that's my personal opinion.
I am on board with you. I mean, you're putting it very passionately, which I love, but I believe it absolutely true. Yes, I mean, I believe both of you, but in the bigger picture, I think Ian has it right. Like, and living in other cultures as well, I don't see even in democratic societies, no matter how liberal they might be, that there is still a guideline. There's still an underlying belly of, guidance on how to be, how to act, or, how to do things. And the subconscious influences, as you say, like the billboards or we loved our cereal commercials that you just talked about. Like, I freaking love, by the way, I just want to point out, regardless of choice, I loved our cereals. Like, I cannot give them up. Like, I was living in China, and of course, again, I love living in other cultures, especially to enjoy the food. But I grew up in New York. I grew up with every culture's food. I had with that choice, I loved that choice because I could eat any culture's food. And but sometimes I need that comfort of childhood, and I would spend that $5 on a box of Lucky Charms or Fruit Loops or Apple Jacks or whatever to kind of bring me back to that time. But I do agree with Ian that we really didn't have a choice, and those no matter what technology does, I think the technology is just making it much more difficult to see the reality of our choices. Yes, I agree. I agree that we have the choice to, do, as you say, protest and rallies and things like that, but we have no ultimate power on it. And from what I've seen personally, is that even through the pandemic, when people were George Floyd, right? Like when they went out and protested and did things like that, it just, nothing ever came from it. Like no real change really came from these things. It's kind of like, it's a very trending thing. That's my opinion. Unfortunately, I just don't see things changing based on 6 million people going out. When was the last time any rally or protest led to a coup or, someone resigning? We don't really.
Richard Nixon for sure.
Yeah, but that was 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And then when was the time before that? You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying it happens, but not that often, right?
Right. I think we may see it again. I mean, if we keep heading this direction.
We can go into debate. I kind of disagree with both of you, but
that's good, buddy.
So my thing is define choice.
Well, what does it mean to you first?
Well, you guys used the examples like Ian, seeing the cigarette thing. I saw that same ads, maybe not every single day, but I chose never to smoke. We have that choice.
Yeah, we have that choice. I think, sure.
But with everything, we have that choice.
It also depends on environment, though, man.
Yeah, maybe it's a cop.
I saw that billboard while my dad had his window rolled down. Like that would do any better, smoking a cigarette in the car while I was back there, man. And my dad's awesome, dude. He's my best friend, but it's nothing against him because everybody fucking did that, dude. Like he wasn't doing anything different than anybody else. I used to think that tires went flat from all the cigarette butts still freaking having amber on them when they ran over them on the highway, dude. That's that's nothing against my dad. That's just how it is, dude, or was. And somehow, the government, regulated tobacco farmers and cigarette companies from, posting those ads. If they wouldn't have done that, everybody would still be smoking today. I believe that. And there's a small percentage of people who are smart and not dumb fucks like me. They're like, hey, I'm not going to put that in my mouth. I'm not going to light that up. But everybody else who can't like think like that or just wants to be a part of the pack or be cool is going to do it because his buddy's doing it. You know, you're going to wear that hat because your buddy's wearing that hat. You're going to buy that truck because your buddy's buying that truck. You're going to vote for that candidate because your dumb fuck friend is voting for that candidate, dude.
Right.
That's pure and simple.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, but like, I think it's a little complicated when it comes to choice because, the thing is as Ian said, we are highly influenced by our surroundings, our parents, our culture, our, you know, the TV, the you know, what people are doing to be accepted and things like that. I you know, it's hard for me to keep going against the grain because my nature wants to fit in. So everywhere I go, I kind of was always looking at like, oh, I don't agree with that. But then at the same time, the consequences of it are I will be alone and isolated. And most people cannot handle being the, you know, one to lead. Unfortunately, we don't live in that world. And the problems lie in this herd mentality that we all are guilty of. All of us have been or continue to be. It's kind of like this counterintuitive. You can say it's cool to smoke, right? It's like, they made it look cool in the movies. They made it look cool in the magazines. They, you know, put these messages in about how socially accepting it was, and you start believing in it. And even when they used to say doctors support Marlboro or something like that, I mean, the lie was like, especially back in the 50s, 60s. I mean, they did not speak truth in their like advertising at all, but more so in like scientific, you know, things just to push a narrative to make a profit. It's really hard for people to separate, you know, or question that because most people, as you say, are starting to wake up, but we have a critical thinking issue where, you know, people might feel that, I don't think that's right, but they aren't capable yet of taking that thought to another place. I don't think that people know how to use social media or, for that matter, navigate towards better news sources. I mean, we're in the infancy of all this technology, and it's mucking up all this information. And people are just latching on to a narrative that is either socially accepting or benefits themselves because they're like, we live in a really narcissistic, individualistic world at this point where facts or information just doesn't really matter. So again, it's complicated, but you know, again, the narrative of our social media, like what did we choose to post our podcast on? Like, for example, right? Facebook, Instagram, X, Spotify, Apple, you know, like we're all using the same platforms. Why? Because that's where the popular, you know, viewers are. Do we really take a look at our other options? No, because we want to post where people are going to see it, regardless of if it's the, like, let's say, ethical choice. Like, as you say, like Bezos and Zuckerberg and Elon Musk are certainly not role models for me. Like, I don't want to keep making them rich. I don't want, I don't want to, you know, be, you know, supporting their, you know, their bank account. But I'm just saying, if I am going to do this podcasting, how far off of, you know, how far into the fringe can I really go if I'm going to do this? So do I really have a choice? Well, I would have to say no, and I have to turn a blind eye. I don't do X. I even before this whole thing with Musk, you know, selling his car at the driveway of the White House, you know, people would come up to me, like people from, you know, that love and revere rich people, and someone brought up about Musk for whatever reason, and I'm just like, I don't revere rich white men with privilege. He has enough money to make all the changes, all the problems fundamental problems of America go away, especially for the unhoused and the poor. And same with Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. They could have made major impact on our infrastructure, and they've chosen just to put the money into their own pockets. They don't even pay their, Bezos doesn't even pay proper wages, and he feeds fear into his staff, saying, basically about not going to the bathroom during their work time and so on.
Yeah.
I mean, these people are not role models to me. I don't know why we have these people as like gods in our society, but
Because America worships money.
yeah.
Well, I love the free. Sorry to cut you guys
Yeah,
off.
go ahead.
But
Sorry,
I
go
see
ahead.
an opening here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to discuss the freedom of speech aspect here, because when
Yeah.
Jared and I came out, we were what the kids were calling fucking fire, right? 18.4 thousand followers on TikTok, which we still have, right? I want the camera to see this. On X now, Common X with Jared and Ian has 9 followers.
Mhm.
9 fucking followers ever since we had an episode called Elon Musk, villain, visionary, or genius, or whatever, something to that effect, and we talked about his Teslas and his need for power and all of this money and everything. 9 fucking followers on his platform now because he owns it. But that's freedom of speech. But on TikTok, baby, I've got 18.4 thousand plus whatever Jared's got. We're changing the world, bringing a line of thinking for people to think for themselves and aim right down the middle and not be too far, too left, too right, whatever, to not be extreme and just be human beings and have an intelligent conversation about something. And we have been censored. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know what censored looks like, that's what censored looks like. Elon Musk somehow has AI or big balls or whatever to like monitor his shit. And now we have 9 followers. One of the hottest podcasts that could ever grow within 7 months. I mean, Jared and I have just fast tracked up and to the right because we don't give a shit, dude. We're not here. We're not trying to beat Joe Rogan. That's what the problem is. If somebody wants to get into podcasting, have something to say. If you're doing it for money, or if you're doing it for you want to be famous or whatever, guess what? Newsflash, people. Podcasts don't make you famous. Podcasts don't make you rich. Joe Rogan had all of his shit. He just decided to do that. So for anybody who has grand illusions of something different, that's the reality of it. But what we certainly didn't need, and you made a great point talking about where we post our podcasts, right? We're going to go with the herd because we don't have a choice in that respect, right? But then all of a sudden we're censored because we even said his name. And, we said his name long before Doge. We said his name long before he tried to conquer the world and do this whole freaking, Dr. Evil bullshit or whatever he's doing right now, the pinky in his mouth. We were censored before that because he had a plan. Well, who gives a shit? Because at the end of the day, I mean, we're all just human beings. Like, we bleed. You can put a bullet in my head. It'll probably freaking happen. We put on our pants the same way and everybody shits, right? But why the hell is he so great that like my voice can't even be heard? We can't even say, hey, guess what? Episode 29, with Debra's coming out, come and check it out. And I make a 1-minute short so people can get an idea of what they're about to see. But we only want 9 people to see that because someone's so fucking terrified that their name might be brought up in a bad light in that episode that hasn't even been produced or released yet. Grow a pair of fucking balls, Elon. Like, that is bullshit right there. And what I hate about it the most, and I'll get off my soapbox soon. I'm a little emotional tonight.
I'm glad.
But the issue here is, why is he so terrified of that? Why is he so paranoid? Why someone that is so far above it, chainsaw, someone so powerful, that feels like he has to repopulate the whole earth himself so he can go to Mars. Like, fuck you, dude. You know what I mean? Why are you so terrified of me and Jared and Debra on this platform? That tells me that there's something to bring down. There is a tower to knock down. There's something wrong. And now I'm gunning for you, brother. Like, that's what it's all about. You're telling me that you're going to be the puppet for Trump, who says that he wants to protect these amendments. He wants to protect freedom of speech while you're fucking me over at the same time, reversing the whole thing. You don't want us to be heard. We're a threat to him. We threaten Elon Musk. That's why I've got 9 followers, because those 9 followers that I have, he doesn't give a shit if they hear what I have to say. It's the other billions of people that populate this earth that he doesn't want us to tell them what we think. What do you guys think of that?
I
People
love
that
it.
live in the dark are afraid of the light.
Fuck them, man. You know, and I don't care. Like I don't care what shirt you wear, what color it is, what clique you hang out with, or who you drink beer with. I don't give a fuck, dude. Like, and so like, but don't try to run me over with a truck that says you want to be classified as a super MAGA. Like, what the fuck is that? Do you live in America or not? Do you need civil liberties and protections and laws so that we can all get along, or don't you? Because a dictatorship isn't going to work. We just talked about this when we had the great Mark Pitts on one of our last episode. I don't even know if I'm supposed to say that. I'm not sure if that one's up yet. I think it might be released. But he talked about Rome, right? He talked about Rome, and you talk about emperors and kings and people like that. They all get taken down by their own people because no one's getting a piece of the pie.
Right, because they become so corrupt and think they're gods and think they're above men.
So Ian's weekly apology is that I called Elon Musk a bitch and a couple of other things like 7 months ago. Then I apologized because I didn't want to have 9 followers, but I have 9 followers anyway. We do, Jared. So now my apology this week is I apologize for apologizing to you, motherfucker. You know? Like, screw that guy, dude. Like, he's got 300 billion reasons to ignore me. Why does he even care?
Well, and
It's ridiculous.
So from your viewpoint, Deborah, do you see like that oligarchy taking over America?
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's just evident. And because there's, I knew that if Trump won again, which I still can't get over, it's like someone who's been in an abusive relationship and leaves it and then forgets that it's all like how dangerous and toxic it was, and only remembers the good stuff and then goes back for a second. But the second time, you already know what the consequences are, and you kind of put it into an atomic explosion because you know better. And that's where we're at with Trump, and what he's doing day by day is everything that an oligarchy society does, which is, again, what you're talking about, let's just say the freedom of speech. Well, first of all, we don't have the top country of freedom of speech. In fact, we're like number 45 or something in the world. The world, meaning think about all the countries that are higher than us, meaning, free societies. There are many more that have a better regulation on that. And so we've been losing ground on this for quite some time when it comes to freedom of speech. It's just that now it's much more visual, where before it's been like being cut underneath the table, and now the Republican Party is out in the open and saying exactly what they're going to do. There's been Trump has no filter. He doesn't know how to really, say something without keeping the goal. He always shares exactly what he's going to do. Defunding the education. I remember him talking about that. Him calling all the fake news for 4 years prior. He did all of that. I mean, he's already put like the seeds in place, and now he's just doing exactly what he said. He put loyalists in all the seats. There's not one person that's working with him that has any credential or qualification to do this job. In fact, I think you guys are much more qualified than the people, many of the people he's put in place. He wants people to just follow him. And that's it. I mean, I'm just saying, like, what I'm saying, and I think what the point of, these questions for me are, it's not about just an opinion, can you back it up with evidence? And there's just too much evidence to point that, America has become an oligarchy. You have there's top what, 3 to 5 people who have wealth combined of the bottom half or more. That's not what a democracy is. It is, where there is a middle class. And, they've been gutting the middle class for quite some time. And this all started with the Reagan trickle-down economics, which I know you brought up in a, previous episode. I mean, giving all the wealth to the wealthy people and expecting them to share and distribute it properly, like, when in history has that ever been? When has that ever been an idea that has worked? So we
Who's gonna
basically
make them? Yeah.
right. I'm
Right.
just saying that you're basically giving money to the kings. What do you think the kings are going to do? They're going to feed themselves. Yeah.
All right, Deborah.
Uh-oh.
I lost
Hey,
you.
Ian,
Oh,
your mic
yeah.
went out.
Yeah.
Ian, hey, you're
Oh shit! Here we
muted.
go. Here we go. Here we go. Can
Yeah,
everyone
okay.
hear me? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Deborah. We got you all worked up. That's what we do
Yeah.
now, I guess. I apologize.
Yes.
This has been a passionate episode. It's
Yeah.
it's trials and tribulations. But we've come to a part of this episode where we like to do what we call Jared's 5. So what Jared's going to do is he's going to ask you some questions. One of them is going to have a question from the previous guest, and one of them is going to be a question that you're going to have for the next guest. Sound fun?
Yeah. I saw that bit yesterday. So yeah.
All right. It's your turn.
All
Here
right.
we go.
All right, here we go. What is your favorite movie of all time?
Yeah, that's a hard one, guys, because I've seen a lot of movies over the past 50 years.
So have I.
And I'm an avid, enthusiast of the silver screen. So it's really difficult for me to choose one. So I am putting the question back at you. Can you choose 3 movies that you think are the top, and I'll give you my favorite of those 3 or 5? I know
Jerry Maguire, Roadhouse, and Top Gun. Only movies that should have ever fucking existed right there. And
Jerry
Spaceballs.
Maguire.
Oh,
Wait,
Yeah.
you're hilarious.
Yeah, hell yeah. Show me the money.
Money. No, I love the movie. Okay, wait. So you said Jerry Maguire, Spaceballs, Roadhouse.
Roadhouse.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you 4. Yeah. And
Okay,
Top Gun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Absolutely.
I'd rather go with those.
mine's Fifth Element. by
At
the way.
5.
Oh, okay. So if you're gonna do Fifth Element, then I'm gonna choose Fifth Element. Fifth Element
Yeah, that's my favorite.
I'm just saying, as far as sci-fi, if we're going to choose a sci-fi, I would say that Fifth Element is right up there, along with, for me, Terminator 1 and Terminator 2.
Oh,
But the Fifth Element, the characters, it was just so funny and dark at the same time. Gary Oldman is definitely one of my all-times, for sure.
yeah. And I love the verbal back and forth between them, right? And not between person, but scene to scene. So if you guys have never seen the movie, go watch Fifth Element. You'll thank me.
Yeah, the Fifth Element is a must. Absolutely.
All right. So what was your favorite cartoon growing up?
I would have to say the Looney Tunes. Absolutely. And Marvin the Martian and the monster that got his hair cut by
Oh yeah, the big red hairy monster guy.
yeah,
What was his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Did
don't
he have a
remember.
name?
Yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't Clifford, right?
That's a dog.
That's a dog.
I'm gonna have to look that up now. Darn it. All right. All right. Next one. So what's one thing?
Oh, wait, one more thing. And I have to be honest
Alright.
with you, I love Tom and Jerry.
Oh,
I love
yeah,
Tom and
Jerry
Jerry.
were great.
And I didn't realize how, let's say, violent they were, but
Oh, yeah.
they
They
were.
were bad.
And the Roadrunner, of
Yep,
course, and
Coyote,
Coyote. But the thing is that let's just point something out, to people that blame the video games on violence, the violence increasing in this country. We grew up as Gen Xers with all this ultra violence, and again, we didn't create, war, and we didn't create these issues in America based off of them. So that debunks the whole thing about what we see is what we become. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, I watch Jerry the Mouse fuck that cat up all the time, man. Same with the Roadrunner just jacking up that coyote all the time, man.
Yeah. All right, number 3. What's one thing that you think people should know about you that maybe they don't?
I need a moment to
No,
think
that's
about
fine.
that. I would say that I'm misunderstood. And a lot of times when I share my truth, it comes out in a way that is misconstrued as, like, say, either cocky or negative or ways of handling things in a way that are too strong, too serious. And the thing is in I do believe in genuine answers. Like, I know that laughing at things and having that, like, that's why I love talking to you guys. You guys can put a spin on the truth with humor. And like, that's why I watch, people like Jon Stewart and, Daily Show and other people that take things and put it in a lighter way, but still get the point across. But I'm kind of a direct, straight shooter. And it's just, it's taken the wrong way. I would just tell people that I'm just passionate about certain things, and I just like to get to the point. And being direct, I think, is something we need to bring back. As a Gen Xer, I believe that this polite
Yep.
conversation that we're having is not helping. I'm not saying I'm not saying talk mean, but can't we just get straight to the point at this point? Like, we need to get shit done. We need to fix things. Can't we, filter through all this muck, this bullshit,
Right.
and just get to the fucking point? So I would just want to tell people, it's just that I really care and I'm a sensitive person, on contrary to thinking that I'm just a person who wants to hear my voice.
Yeah. Awesome.
Good answer.
All right. What advice would you give your teenage self?
To follow through on your goals, no matter how hard it is, no matter how difficult it is to stand on your own. If you can't find people to lead you a little bit to that next place, but to believe in yourself that if you do follow, and I don't like saying heart, because I do believe in following your heart, but I do believe that we all have individual talents and things to offer this planet. And some of us have the privilege of having that light shed on it and know your purpose, where a lot of people don't have that opportunity. And I know now that I have been given a privilege amongst the majority who don't. And I need to stick to that and follow through. And that's what I would tell myself, because I studied to become, a journalist and an artist, and like National Geographic was one of my dreams, always was a dream to work with at least National Geographic. And I lacked the confidence and I lacked the support to get me there. But I will take accountability for that. But what I would point out at is a Gen X thing that really was difficult for me, is that we lived, from our 0 to 20 something or so, we lived in a time of a certain analog or a certain technology. And then by the time for me, by the time I did my undergrad and completed it, the whole world, when I came out of that bubble, was completely different. And basically I became obsolete, including my camera equipment from, film to digital. And, the transitions of journalism, the transitions on communication, and all of the things that changed, I didn't really have a fundamental ground to know how to navigate and to do what I really wanted to do. Change happened too fast. I feel like like someone poured oil on the ground and I was just slipping trying to stay afloat.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said, it moved pretty fast. We went from like playing with He-Man and Hot Wheels and G.I. Joes in the backyard to now you can surf what on where? Everywhere?
It's dangerous.
Yeah. All right. Last question from our previous guest, Mark Pitts. Uh, he asked if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live?
That is quite the question for
Especially for
a
the experienced
global.
explorer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
For the experienced explorer, that is a very tough question. And I actually did talk about that in my, I think, introduction episode. It is a tough question. Usually if I was being to be philosophical, I would kind of say the place, somewhere I haven't been yet, it's the next
Hmm.
place. But let's not go that deep. I would say out of all the places that I have, traveled to and or lived in, that the place that I felt at home, because I talk about the feeling of home. And the
Hmm.
feeling of home is what, like, to me, a place that represents, kind of reflects who you are as a person. I mean, I know you can create certain things in your life, but to me, the overall surroundings around me need to be in there as well. And I would say, as of right now, it would be probably either Italy or Spain. The richness in culture and their respect to the arts is evident everywhere, and I get to be immersed in it. Um, they have a very, like, as you say, like a work life balance that's very Gen X. I believe in that work life
Right.
balance as well, and just watching them enjoy their life makes me feel like, I'm just saying, it gives me the mentality and support to do more of who I am, because I feel validated within their culture. The food as well, who doesn't love Italian food, especially
Right.
in America? I mean, New Yorkers, we live for our pizza. So,
Yeah.
it kind of fosters everything that I value in life.
That's awesome. Yeah, Italy is where I started, so
Nice.
that was the birthplace.
Oh, lucky. So you
I
have a
don't
dual
remember it.
passport?
No, I
Oh.
would have if anybody told me to do that before I turned 18, but nope. Dang it.
Yeah, but the thing is that they're very open to, like, if you're an Italian and you can approve it, they will, support your residency and things like that. You could
Maybe I
look
should look
into,
into
I'm
it.
not saying, not telling you to do
Hey,
anything.
America's a shit show right now.
I would
Yeah.
suggest everyone, like, I would just say, put it out there for anyone, you know, Americans only have 20, like, Americans in general only have 20% to 30% have passports, and how many actually even really utilize them? That is part
Yeah.
of freedom. I have to be
Yep.
honest. Like, I put that out there to people, being like, the best gift that I was given from America for me at this point is my passport. I can choose, as you say, to leave. I'm
Hmm.
not telling people they have to, but you do not need to stay, if you have, a passport, and, learn how to, through someone like myself and through the abundance of people who live now as an expat or looking to do that, is certainly much more accessible now, more than ever, and it's something to consider.
Yeah, I think so. Like bringing that full circle, it sounds like what you're saying is in America, illusion is a choice. Or is it a choice? Or is
Right.
choice an illusion?
Choice
Yeah.
And if
versus
you, but
illusion.
if you choose to go somewhere else, right, that's your choice.
Mm,
Do you now have more choices? And it is no longer an illusion.
mm.
Well,
So
I've never. Yeah.
I also agree with you guys. I was just playing the strong man. I don't think we
I
have
like
the
it.
choice either.
Yeah,
Playing
it's
that
okay. It's a good way
song.
to,
He's
lead
just
out
turn
on
on
this.
silent type.
Yeah.
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 You
In
think I'm gonna
America,
ride
I
this
believe
mother?
it.
I'm gonna ride this motherfucker out, man. I was born here. We'll deal with our problems here. And if my neighbor's got a fucking issue because he wants to destroy an American flag in the back of his truck, I'll fucking love him later. But right now, Stay the fuck off my property, you
Yeah.
fucking ignorant fuck.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I have to be honest with
We'll
you.
work it out.
I agree with you. I just I have no tolerance for the ignorance. I have to be honest with you. And again, this is not about like when I was listening to one of your shows, someone was, you guys are talking about who's stupid, who's not. It's not about necessarily stupid. It's about ignorance and chosen. Have to be honest, chosen ignorance.
Right.
That I see going on in America, and that we have a leader who is hurting that and allowing people to be that way, because you can only lead a herd of ignorant. You can't
That's right.
lead a herd of woke people. And that's why the narrative is this woke, issue. There's a reason for it. It's not
Yeah.
it's not him just talking out of his ass on that. It is very intentional. So yeah.
Well, I don't know who the fuck's woken up. I think the problem is that I've been asleep for all these years. But like I said, me and my neighbor will work it out down the line. But he's just
No.
joined up with the wrong herd. He's in the wrong pack. It's like, dude, think for yourself, man. Think about your kids or whatever. I mean, do you want? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
reel it back because I just caught myself, dude. It's usually the Jared that goes off the deep end, but it was me today. Sorry about that, brother.
Hey, it's all
know
you,
what?
man.
Thanks for
Actually,
joining us.
You do you.
I always see Jared much more as the more chilled one out of the two, like the ones that I've watched.
And he's the level-headed because he's the level-headed one. Because I'll start going off these things, man, and Jared will be like, "Hey, come back to reality." Like, "Hey, whoa, hey, watch your step there, buddy. Come back to normalcy." And he's my rock. He brings me back around. But thank you everybody for listening and watching. This has been episode 29 of Common X Podcast with Jared and Ian. This has been our guest, Debra Josephson. And she is with the Experience Explorer podcast, No Borders, No Filter. You can follow her at TikTok, at No Borders, No Filter. Correct? She's on Instagram. She's on Spotify.
Well,
she's
actually, if we're just doing
Did I
it
butcher
that
that?
way, okay. No, my brand is Experience Explorer. My podcast is No Borders, No Filter. So,
Oh, my apologies.
no, that's okay. I mean, no worries. So I just wanted to clarify, like, yes, you can find me on, Spotify, Apple, and YouTube, for example, No Borders, No Filter. You type that in. But as far as like Facebook, it would be at, you could find me with Experience Explorer. So EXPERIENT Explorer, Experience Explorer. And I just want to lead out on that. Why Experience Explorer? Because what I believe, which I believe is a Gen X thing as well, is we believe in hands-on experience. So my philosophy is the best way to learn is to do. So go out and get your hands dirty.
Yeah, just throw the firecracker before it goes off.
Throw
you go.
that phone aside. Yeah.
Well, everyone, you heard it here first on Common X. Go out, follow our friend, check her out. We're going to end this episode right here, and we're going to join her for an episode on her platform as well. And this has been Common X Podcast with Jared and Ian.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. This is great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
thank you.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today to the podcast, Common X with Jared and Ian. We really appreciate you guys and would love your support. So make sure you click that subscribe or like button or follow us on all our social media platforms and on YouTube and Spotify, because that would really help us out. And that helps us bring more episodes to you guys every week, and hopefully from content that you guys want to see. So reach out, TikTok, YouTube, leave comments. If there's anything that you guys want to see or any guests that you want us to try and get on, let us know. We do have a good lineup coming. So thank you again. We love you guys. Thanks for your support. And we'll see you next time. And remember, common sense isn't that common. So that's why we're bringing common sense back from Generation X.